Hey everybody, it is Brian Nemhauser, and we're back with the Hawk Blogger crew for what is the 40th episode of Real Hawk Talk. Yes, you heard me right, the 40th episode. We happily are going to get to talk to you about a Seahawks victory. Last time we left you, the topic of the podcast was, is the Seahawks season doomed? And Nathan, as we'll talk about soon, was, he completely changed his tune. He was super pessimistic. The rest of us were really stable, really even-handed. And, turned out we were right. Nathan was wrong, but it's okay. Or he's going to power through that.
That's how
but yeah, we got a lot to talk about. And speaking of wrong, in this age of social media posers where everyone tries to act as if they've had everything right the whole time and they are the most clever people out there, we are going to actually go round table and we're going to introduce a segment called I Was Wrong. And we're going to talk about what we were wrong about in this past week for the Seahawks and revel in our incorrectness a little bit. So before we do that, though, Nathan, as always, welcome to you. Good to see you again this week.
Thanks. Bye.
Hello. And that's at NathanE11 on Twitter. If you do not already know that, you should absolutely follow him. He's been sending some great breakdowns of film on Twitter as of late. And then Evan Hill. Welcome back, Evan. How are you?
I am so well. It is great to be back after a wonderful win on Sunday.
It was wonderful. And you know what? There's news to share, Evan, and you helped get this all arranged. So would you mind sharing for folks about a little bit about what we've got going on this Sunday?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if the Hawk Blogger team or blog has done anything pre my contributor existence, but we've got a super special event this Sunday. It's a viewing event for all readers, listeners, friends of the pod. All Seahawks Twitters welcome. All family members are welcome. All children are welcome. Bring your wife, bring your kids. There's this place called Ocean 5 in Gig Harbor, which is an absolutely stunning, how would I say this, event center. They have like a full premium bar, full premium restaurant, laser tag, an arcade, like an extensive arcade room. They have like a huge bowling alley with like what seems like 40-foot like TV screens. They got viewing lounges for the game. It's going to be super fun. So basically what the Hawk Blogger team is going to do is we're going to do a pregame podcast. Myself, Brian, Nathan, and William Cornell, founder of the Reigns to Do Redemption series. For those who follow that series also will be there. So we'll be doing a pregame podcast, and then we will be hanging out with you guys watching the game. So like I said, Ocean 5 in Gig Harbor, we would love to see you there. Podcast will probably start, Brian, what do you say, like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours before the game?
Yeah, 11 or 11:30.
Yeah, so plan accordingly around that. But it's a super cool venue. Drinks, food are all discounted on game day. And then they're also running a special promotion for all Hawk Blogger readers. They're giving complete free access to the arcade room throughout the entire game. So if your kids want to bounce in and out there, you yourself want to jump in and out of the game, maybe the Seahawks are doing poorly, that would be horrible. But yeah, it's going to be a super fun time. So I'll be wearing a Rashad Penny jersey.
Nice.
It's going to be amazing. I'm super excited.
Love it. Nathan, I saw a little disapproval on that, a little head shake. What's going on there?
I am just really excited to see it in person when Evan is screaming to stop giving Penny the ball while wearing a Penny jersey. I can't wait.
That will be a video worth sharing for sure. Yeah. I think it's a brand new spot, which is really cool, and they're really eager to have us. They're really eager to have Hawks fans, and I know it's a trek for some people, but Gig Harbor is gorgeous. If you haven't been there, it's going to be great to go down there. It's, I think, only about 45 minutes, depending on weekend traffic. Shouldn't be too bad. And man, the big screens at the end of the bowling lanes is pretty sweet. To watch a game and be able to play, that'd be cool. So I'm really looking forward to it. It should be fun. Yeah, and we'll see. Hopefully this is the first of other types of events like this we'll be able to do. And always, some of the best parts of doing this is meeting folks face to face. It's part of what makes being a sports fan worthwhile.
And one last note on that, actually, if I was going to boost this on Twitter, but if you're a listener of the podcast and you own like a restaurant or a bar or an event center in Seattle area, East Side area, or even down south, seriously reach out to us. We'd love to partner with you guys, and hopefully this experience really launches that off.
We are happy to eat your food.
If we have to.
Yeah. Nice things about it afterwards on the pod.
Absolutely. Maybe we'll even do a whole video series on your food. You never know.
Oh, one last note on this. I'm sorry. William Cornell, as I mentioned, will be there. Rain City series founder. He is printing out several exclusive Rain City Redemption posters that are like super limited quantity. People have literally offered to pay him hundreds of dollars for these posters before, and he only hands them out rarely. So I think he's only going to print out like 5 to 10, he said. So that'll be a part of an incentive to show up on Sunday. So happy to meet some of you guys and come up and say hi. We'll buy you a beer.
Cool. All right. So we when we left everybody, we were talking last week. Obviously, I was being facetious there. It's pretty clear that Nathan was feeling not much different about the Seahawks. A little bit more pessimistic, but roughly the same. Jeff and I were feeling more pessimistic. I would say Jeff was feeling more pessimistic. I was feeling a lot more pessimistic, and Evan was feeling the most pessimistic among the group. Is kind of where I would place the level of pessimism. So now we've gone through. The Seahawks have won a game, and I'm curious what's changed for you now, if anything. And I'm going to start with you, Evan, because I have a feeling I know what Nathan's going to say.
Believe it or not, I'm actually not 100% bought into this team yet. Obviously, they had a good showing on Sunday, and they beat the Cowboys, which is awesome. And I was really impressed with the defense. I think Bradley McDougald played a phenomenal game. I think Earl Thomas played a phenomenal game. I was impressed with Shaq Griffin. There were some real bright spots on the defense, and the offense played pretty well for the majority of the game. So I think there's some real bright spots from the game. I will say this, though. You got to remember the quality of the opponent. Like, the Cowboys do not look good this year, and their offense was really in shambles. And that's not to take anything away from the defensive performance on Sunday, but I just want to see them continue it beyond 1 week. I think the overarching, positive takeaway, and Nathan is going to hate to hear this, but they finally had like an offensive identity. Like, it finally felt like they actually stuck to what they said they were going to do. They gave Chris Carson the rock 32 times or something like that. So I was happy to see, him dominate the share of carries between the running backs. And it just felt like they had an identity for the first time in a while. So they may not have been like super efficient and explosive running the ball, but at least they committed to something and they actually executed on it. So I think DJ Fluker actually played a really underrated role in that too. So I think there's some positive takeaways.
Nathan, where do you feel differently than you did a week ago?
I don't a whole lot. I've been saying this all along. Those first 2 weeks were terrible matchups. You get Dallas at home. Dallas looks worse than I think we probably thought they were going to look. And they won, and they should have. It was a pretty dominant game, so that was nice to see. I mean, I think it was early in the game when I kind of turned to my friend and I was like, they're going to win this game. Like, I don't think a team had scored yet. And it just was really clear, like, Dallas just doesn't have a lot going for them. I don't feel a whole lot different. I thought that this would be exactly where they are, and here they are.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned about the way that they won, or at least the feeling of that game. I don't know about you guys, but my friend and I that were watching really actually kind of were commenting about the fact that couldn't really remember a game that felt like that the Seahawks had played in a while, where really seemed like they had firm control. There used to be this kind of like, I don't know, like Seahawks stranglehold that they'd put teams in, where they would kind of just run and run. It was close early, and then it would get to the fourth quarter, and they'd kind of like, push them off, right? They couldn't score on them. Special teams was kind of dominant, and they just would end up winning. And this wasn't exactly that, but the Seahawks felt like they were in firm control of this game almost the whole time, and that felt different to me. Did you guys feel that as well?
Yeah, and I got that vibe from the defensive performance. I mean, the offense for the most part of the game seemed to be fairly competent, but it just felt like they were. I don't know how to say this. I'm so impressed with the defense. I really am, and I know Pete Carroll's a defensive guru, but God, Bradley McDougald is playing out of his mind. Frank Clark had a great game. I think Nathan, you were doing some breakdowns on Twitter on that today. The defense just felt nasty with Bobby back too. Bobby had a great game, and a quick reminder: this is with KJ Wright out. So when he comes back, this defense could be even better.
Michael Kendricks has been a godsend. Like,
seriously,
they got lucky. He's legitimately fun to just watch. He kind of flies around, and I think he probably looks a lot like what we were hoping Shaquem would look like right away. But he's a guy with a track record of success, and they picked him up for free, and that story is still wild. But the fact is, he's playing every Sunday for them for the foreseeable future, and he's a good player. And so losing KJ, I think, could have been a whole lot worse, as we saw in that first game against Denver, if they hadn't had Kendricks, with this weird situation just fall into their laps.
Yeah, we should get back to KJ a little later. I have some questions about what you guys think is going to happen, what you guys think is going to happen there. But, it was really interesting, like just seeing that them going back to the run the way they did. I'm going to say what might sound like conflicting things. One, I believe part of the reason that they won this game is because they chose to run as much as they did, and that they committed to it. I also believe that the reason, like the predominant reason that they actually scored points was because of the passing game. Like, if you look at the plays that really translated into points and the drives that translated into points, it was like really well executed passes at the right times in tough situations. And, I know that there's all sorts of math out there about how these things work together or not, but just instinctually watching that stuff, something about the way that they put those things together seems to fit for a Pete Carroll team. And what the translation is may not come out in the numbers, but it definitely felt more like Seahawks football, and that I can see them playing that brand of football and being in almost every game. And when I compare, I didn't give my answer about how I feel differently or the same. Honestly, if they hadn't changed their game plan and they had called the game the way that they had called it in the first 2 weeks, I would feel the exact same way I did about them before this game. It is not the result, that has me feeling any differently. It is the process for how they got there. And I think it's a more repeatable process. I still don't think the Seahawks offense is good. I don't think the running game is good. And I have still questions about the offenses that they've played so far. I think the defense has definitely stepped up. But, I think that the 7-9 wins thing still seems like that could happen if they play this brand of football. So, they go into Arizona next week. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But let's talk more about what we were wrong about. Let's jump in here. I've tried to give you guys a little bit of time to think because I didn't give you much warning. And what were things that you were flat wrong about this week relative to the Seahawks? Nathan, you want to go first? I know this is a hard one for you.
It is. I'm so infrequently wrong. I think I don't know if it was about. I mean, not about going into this week, but one thing I was very wrong about, just in going back to the start of last year, actually, was the McDougal signing. I didn't get it. I didn't think he was particularly good. I didn't think he was bad or anything, but like he's playing at a really, really high level now that I would never have guessed that he would be at. He's not Cam, but Seahawks fans have been so fortunate. But also it's kind of been a curse. Like we saw Cam and we saw Marshawn and we saw some of these guys, and like now we always want to look back and compare guys to them. And there's just never going to be another Cam. There's never going to be another Marshawn. But setting aside that McDougal isn't Cam, like he's damn good, and I didn't see that coming at all. Going into this week, I don't know if I said it anywhere, but I was really concerned about Britt being out. I think Britt is probably at the point where he's a little underrated by fans, even though I still think he's kind of middle of the pack in terms of just being a center, an NFL center. But he is, a solid starting offensive lineman in the NFL. I was nervous about Hunt. I've never been impressed by Hunt. I don't think he's really played well, even like in preseason. I think he's been bullied a lot. And they ran a lot and they didn't run particularly effectively. And I thought part of that was on the offensive line. But I think overall, Joey Hunt played an okay game, and that wasn't really a big, a glaring weakness for them.
Evan, how about you?
Yeah, so it's interesting that you highlighted the offensive line, Nathan, without mentioning the player I feel like didn't get nearly enough credit that he got on Sunday. His name. What was that?
I think we're going to disagree on this a lot, but go ahead.
Prepare your hearts and minds, people. Jermaine Ifedi.
But not good enough to pronounce his name correctly. He's not quite there.
Correct. That requires a 4-game impressive streak.
I see.
We're at 1 right now. We're at 1. How many times did you hear DeMarcus Lawrence's name on Sunday? Just once. I think it was just once I heard. I think he got 1 sack on the edge, and I think Disley was on that side helping. I don't remember the exact replay. I need to go back and rewatch it. But I was impressed with Ifedi. Initial reaction from the game. I thought he held his ground. I was watching him throughout the game, and I think he might be getting better. This is cautiously optimistic here. I think the power of Mike Solari might be changing this man's heart and physicality a little bit and technique a little bit. I'm starting to get a little bit excited. So the Jermaine Ifedi train is it's coming into the train station, and there's all these fans, and they're a little dispersed. Just get ready. That's all I'm saying.
Nathan's taking a drink, I think. I think we need to come back to Nathan after that, because I know, Nathan, you've been doing a fair number of tweets about Mr. Ifedi.
Yeah, I disagree. I don't know. I mean, he's been helped a bunch by having Disley next to him, and that hasn't been terrible. But, this is the same guy that, he got fooled by a couple stunts, which has been a big thing with him for a long time. There was one play where he tried to cut block, and he kind of just, turned around and then sat down in front of the
player. Yeah.
I would not – I never remember which one's right or which one's which, but I think I'm bullish or maybe bearish. Maybe I'm bearish. I'm bearish on Jermaine Ifedi.
Did he have any penalties on Sunday?
That's fair. I think did he have the false start?
I don't think so.
No, because they only had – so this is another thing that we can maybe talk about is they only had 2 offensive penalties.
Yeah.
One of them was the delay of the game, on the very last drive.
Yeah.
So
I think that's a fair point to consider, though, is because Pete absolutely murdered Jermaine Ifedi for penalties last year. Pulled him in preseason in the mock scrimmage. That's been a huge issue for Ifedi. So 3-game sample size, but there might be some signs of improvement there.
Yeah, I was trying to do a quick search and see if I could find him on penalties. Hold on 1 second. So while I'm doing this. By player, 1 second. I'm almost there.
No, this is worth it. Jermaine Ifedi, we're going to find out whether or not you truly performed well.
Ifedi only has 2 penalties, and I know he had 1 false start in each of the first 2 games. So that means he did not have a penalty to speak of in this game.
Okay.
Lining up against Von Miller and lining up against Khalil Mack, like I'll spot him
on the road.
On the road, yeah, I'll spot him a false start on both of those. I don't think either of those are egregious, and played a clean. I haven't like inspected him all like in the tape. Maybe he was holding like crazy, and the refs just didn't crazy it or call it. But yeah, I think that's definitely fair. I think that's a huge improvement for him.
Yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, it's definitely a huge negative. And I have to answer where I was wrong, and it's taken me all the way up until this moment to be able to figure out one of those examples. But something I have been 100% wrong about is I thought that the Seahawks offensive line would struggle with pass blocking and would be competent with run blocking. And it has been not quite the opposite. That would be putting it too strongly, but their run blocking is pretty atrocious. Like it's got a long way to go. And I think Seahawks fans, we've been really accustomed to hammering on the pass blocking, and it's easier to see when that breaks down in most cases. But the run blocking is just not that good right now. And some of it might just be because there are a lot of guys moving around. There's some amount of coordination that's involved with run blocking, a little bit more orchestration, and maybe it's going to take them some time, and actually doing it more than like 8 times in a game will help them since they can't actually really practice contact anymore. So maybe that'll be part of what changes that up. But, if you look at it, like the pass blocking, look, it's all relative. But, if I go to, I was looking at this earlier today, and let me bring it back up. If I go to profootballfocus.com and I look at what they have for offensive line pass blocking efficiency, there's something like they are, I think, like 21st in the NFL, and that, yes, they're 21st in the NFL right now, with a 85% pass blocking efficiency. Not great, not something to be super excited about. But if you look over the past 5 years, 6 years, they've never been higher than 26th. 29th, 30th, 31st. So they're actually showing some signs of being a little bit more stable and a little bit closer to average there. And I think we've all said that if they can be average pass blocking with Russell Wilson, then he can do a lot of great things. So that's something I've been wrong about so far, and really eager to see them kind of add a little bit more of the run blocking. Do you guys think, am I right here, like between J.R. Sweezy and Fluker and Britt, like, and Brown, like they should be able to be a good run blocking, or at least better run blocking team than they've been so far?
I think it's been a combination of things. I don't think Posick is particularly good as a run blocker. And then you swap him out this week for Sweezy with Fluker coming back. But now you have Hunt in there, who, like I said, he wasn't like, a black hole, but he is a small guy. He's not going to get a lot of push. So maybe once they're 100% right, and, who knows what they'll end up going back to when Britt and Posick are healthy. I thought the line looked okay overall. So I assume they'll give it back to Posick. But yeah, I think that they can be a good run blocking unit. I think they can be better as a pass blocking unit. Like, I think the talent is there to do it. And that's just a professional line. Like, it's really nice to have Posick go down, and you're just slotting in Fluker. Really, like, he would have been hurt, so you'd been down Fluker for a couple games, and then you'd been down Posick a game, and your line didn't just kind of fall to shambles because you had some 7th round defensive tackle convert, which is, I think, what Sweezy is. But
I'm glad you caught yourself on that.
Random Tom Cable project that all of a sudden is slotting in there. Like, it's a line that is, weathering a bit of a storm right now and still not being a complete dumpster fire.
Yeah, and joking aside on the being wrong part, I was right there with you on Bradley McDougald. He would have been one of mine. I've seen Bradley McDougald as a starting quality safety. I do believe he's a starting quality safety, and I think I've been consistent about that. But he's been a lot more than just league average starter. He's been, I don't know, I would say he's been at a Pro Bowl level or close to it through 3 games. I don't know if that's just total homerism, but he had 2 picks in the first game, could have easily had 3. Has had pass breakups. Like really, I think one of his best plays in this last game was a pass breakup. Like his coverage has been outstanding. His tackling's great. Run support. Just that fumble he forced. I mean, come on, that was classic. We would have expected that kind of play over the past few years. So I've been 100% wrong on what his upside was and is, and it's been nice to see. It's been really nice to see that he's. Someone made the point that he is one of John Schneider's best free agent signings. I would say that he's 2 of John Schneider's best free agent signings. Right, signed him last year. Had to sign him again this year. Right.
Do you remember how much
we could have picked him up?
Do you remember how much we paid for him?
Not a lot. You're going to tell me, I hope?
$4.5 million a year.
Yeah.
Did they lock him up for, was it just 1 year or 2 years?
It's a 3-year deal.
For real? Wow.
Yes. So they have him for 2018, 2019, and 2020. I don't want to overstate this, but if he continues at his current level, that's a deal.
He's going to be holding out for more money in there.
Don't even say that. Knock on wood.
Yeah, he's taking notes from Earl for sure. Yeah, so that's been a pretty pleasant surprise. But speaking of safeties, I think we have to talk about his battery mate back there. And what did you guys think? Let's start with you, Evan. About this is just coming from the man who had donned his picture on your Twitter profile for a long time.
Yeah.
How did you feel about what transpired before the game? What are your thoughts about what they should do now?
This conversation is so tough because every time we talk about it, I understand both sides to it. So let's just take the Earl side to it real quick. There's historical precedent in this team that the team extends, their core foundational players entering their last year of their deal. Earl Thomas is in the last year of his deal. Michael Bennett got it. Cam Chancellor got it. Richard Sherman got it. Marshawn Lynch got it. Tons of people got it. Russell Wilson got it. All their core foundational pieces over the years have received this treatment entering, the final year of their deal. Jeremy Lane got it. Like everybody has gotten it. So I think from Earl's perspective, especially considering his age and, some kind of freak accident injuries in the past couple of years, I don't think it's unreasonable for him to be like, no, it's time for me to deserve an extension. Like there's historical precedent for that. What really annoys me is when people compare this to the Cam situation. This is not the Cam situation. This is not the Cam holdout. The Cam holdout, Cam was like in year 2 of his new deal. It was complete BS out of like a 4-year deal. It made no sense. So Earl is in the last year of his deal. The money is, I believe, non-guaranteed. Like he has, I think, a legitimate, concern for his body. So I understand that, and I'd probably be in the same position. But at the same time, the Seahawks have gotten burned by, third contracts with these players. And, I do agree that what's happened with other players doesn't automatically mean that Earl's going to flop on a third contract or something like that. But I think clearly the Seahawks do feel sort of concerned, or they would have paid him by now. I was, and feel free to disagree with me on this, I was a little upset with him not practicing. It kind of feels like I'd rather him be fully in or fully out almost. I'd rather him be like, you know what? No, I'm going to practice super hard every single day, and I'm going to play super hard on, every single game. And I don't have concerns at all about him on game day. It's the practice thing that concerns me a little bit in terms of setting an example for, younger guys. And it seems like a distraction. I'd almost prefer him, honestly, to be honestly holding out. It just feels like a halfway foot in the door type of thing. Yeah, I think his agent is real whack too. I don't really understand what his agent has been coaching him to do, but I was kind of disappointed by the situation. But to sum my thoughts up real quickly, I want there to be an end to this saga. I am done. I am absolutely done with the back and forth drama of this. Either extend him now, Like, pay him now. He is clearly worth it. Or don't, and trade him tomorrow. Please. And when people bring up the comp pick formula, there's no guarantee the Seahawks get a comp pick from him. They could go out and sign some big free agent and, completely strike through his comp pick that we would get for him. So I just want the Seahawks to take decisive action either way. I hate this like in limbo phase. So
Nathan, how do you feel about Earl sitting out practices? Does that bother you?
No. If he's going to show up and play the way he's played in the last 3 games, I don't care if he holds out during the week and shows up Sunday morning. And I mean, if you're going to go get, what do they have, 3 picks? If you're going to get turnovers and, he's playing lights out, he's breaking up passes, he's all over the place. No, I have no problem with this. I get the idea that, like, I mean, again, this is something that Pete has to manage. We've talked a lot about his philosophy and, number one is protect the team and always compete and yada, yada, yada. And this guy doesn't want to practice. But, like, I mean, he'll have to figure that out. But I don't see the problem here. Like, he's showing up. He's playing really well. He's not making mistakes. I don't care about it at all. I think it's getting a little ridiculous that they're not going to just pay the guy. And I don't know why. And it feels like it's a pissing match more than anything at this point. Like, there's just a pride thing. And that is really weird to me. The ideal thing here, if you're the team, is that you manage to rectify the situation or get Earl right or happy enough and then, like, franchise him. But, like, that's just never going to happen. So they need to be realistic, and they either need to pay him or trade him. I do think that's true. Not because of the holding out or anything like that or the practice situation, but because you're going to get to the end of this year, and if you're not going to pay him, if you're going to pay him, just pay him now. What are you fighting about? And if you're not going to pay him, don't lose him for nothing. Like, that's ridiculous. Get a 3rd-round pick, get a 4th-round pick. Yeah, it's nothing. Yeah, it's not Earl's value. It is more than you're going to end up with at the end of this year. And, he's very good, and he's helping this team, but this is not a playoff team. This is not a Super Bowl team. Get whatever you can out of this. Pay him, preferably. He's crazy good. But otherwise, trade him.
How do you guys feel about the Cam Chancellor contract? Do you think that was a good choice to sign Cam to that deal?
No, but I complained about that deal. Like, me and a lot of people did not like that deal at the time, and you could see the signs of Cam slowing down. That's not the case with Earl today. Like, yeah, there's risk. Earl is older, and it's that 3rd contract situation, but I don't think they're the same situation beyond that.
How would you guys feel if they signed him to a significant deal and he gets injured this year or next year and retires? Would you still feel like it was the right choice?
In the moment, yes.
Yeah.
I think it's worth the risk with Earl Thomas. I as great as Cam Chancellor is, I genuinely believe Earl Thomas is on a higher level significantly. Like, I think Earl Thomas is a Hall of Fame caliber player. Not to say Cam isn't. I think Cam is, but Earl, dude, just pay him. Just pay him. Come on, John. Drop your ego. Pay him $13 million a year. He's worth it. Just do it. Come on.
It's funny. I don't sense ego being involved at all. I don't get this pissing match thing. I think the Seahawks have made a calculation. Whether people agree with it or not is a separate topic. But I think they've made a calculation that they don't want to sign him to a 3rd contract, or they're going to be very wary of 3rd contracts based on the trajectory of this team. And part of what they might be evaluating is, what does this team look like? Is it going to make sense for us to invest 3 years in this guy? Or maybe we want to get a little bit of more view in Tedrick and see whether we're better off spending the money elsewhere, or whether this team is more than a couple of years away from. I think all those things could be factoring in. But I agree with Nathan on one part in particular, which is I don't feel a lot of pressure about, okay, if he's going to miss practice. And I actually understood exactly what he said. People were beating him up about it, and I understand why they were, for saying, hey, if I have a headache, if I'm not feeling right, I'm not practicing. I'm going to take care of my body. You know what? Like, that might not be the first time, or the last time, I should say, that happens in the NFL, in today's NFL. Like, these players are realizing more and more what the impact is to their bodies, and they know what they're going to get paid regardless of what goes on if they're a really good player. Can you make them practice? Sure, you can start to find them. Different teams would handle that different ways, but on a Pete Carroll team, I don't know. I'm kind of curious to see how that plays out. If I don't think his teammates care, honestly. I don't think that there's this jealousy. He has proven himself as a Hall of Fame player and is bringing it every Sunday and playing great football. So I don't feel that urgency. I am comfortable with the ambiguity. I think strategically, that's where I think we're all talking about now, like exiting this season, losing Earl, and all you get is cap space most likely because the comp picks, you have to think the Seahawks are going to spend some money on free agents this offseason. That would seem like a really big mistake. So, yeah.
If they don't want to pay, if they don't know if they want to pay Earl, they don't want to pay Earl. Like, as much as I think that's probably as willing as I would be to pay Earl, if you're on the fence 3 games into the last year of his deal about giving him a third contract, don't give him a third contract. Like, don't put yourself in that situation. We'll see if that's the right call or not. But like, this is what they have to get better at. And these are the mistakes that they made in the past, is they try to just kind of like keep like rolling this stuff back out there. And I think Earl is the one guy where you really should roll it back, again. But if you aren't sure going into a third contract, then you don't want to give them the money. Don't give them that money. Trade him. Get something. Recoup some value. This is what, Belichick and those old Eagles teams did really well. And it seems like this is still the same problem that Seattle's had.
Yeah, so the decision tree there, I think, is what you're getting at, which is if you're not going to sign him, then trade him.
Yeah.
And for me, the decision tree before that was even, okay, if you're not going to sign him and you're going to trade him before the draft last year. Get a player that could have contributed to this season. And the fact that they didn't do that has caused, I think, more turmoil than was necessary and more churn than was necessary. And they could have been planning for a future where they knew Earl wasn't going to be there. And now they're in a position where the guy that's maybe going to replace him is not really playing. And I'm not still convinced that he can come close to replacing him. And maybe Bradley McDougald is playing strong safety and you'd need him to play free, or I don't know. There's a lot of things that end up being kind of messed up about that. And the farther you get into this season, the less value he has to the team acquiring him, unless unless they're able to obviously sign him to that long-term deal, which would be part of the transaction. So I think trade deadline is what is it? End of October,
right? It's week 8 now.
Is it week 8?
It used to be week 6. I think they've just pushed back. I don't know when.
I'm like 90% sure it's week 8.
Yeah, I mean, I was hearing, and I think others were hearing, rumors that Earl was going to be traded after this game, and that still could happen. It's just Tuesday, but everybody was asking after the guy has 2 interceptions in that game and obviously made a huge impact. It's amazing. It's not surprising that started to change in people's perspective. And
sorry, Brian. Trade deadline is October 30th. So
okay, that's what I thought. End of October. Okay. Yeah.
So weakens their leverage though in a trade. If they get up to that deadline, if it's October 29th, they haven't extended Earl, they haven't traded Earl. A team knows, the chances of an extension at that point I think are slim. Like it seems like every day that goes on or every week that goes on, their leverage on this gets less. And in fact, I think the right time to do it at the draft. I agree with you then. But his value right now, 3 games, 3 picks, playing well, his value is probably not going to be higher than it is right now, which is a silly thing to say. Like, the facts about him and who he is isn't going to change. But, I think perception and everything is probably the highest it's going to be right now.
Yeah.
On that note, what do you guys think about the Kansas City leak that came out over this weekend from Mort? Do you guys think that was leaked by the Seahawks to drum up maybe a little aggressiveness by the Cowboys, or what do you guys think about that?
Talking about the report that the Chiefs have emerged as a second suitor for Earl.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be amazing for the Chiefs. I think
it'd be a smart move.
Yeah. Especially if Earl's at the point where you're going to give him for a third and you got a team that looks like that Kansas City team does. Whew.
Yeah. Is Eric Reed back? Is he playing?
Eric Berry.
Eric Berry. Sorry. Yeah. Eric Berry.
I believe so.
I think he was out last week.
Yeah. He's been dealing with some injuries, but I mean, a Barry Thomas safety duo would be pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah, I don't know. It could be that the Seahawks dropped that. It could be Earl's agent dropping that. I thought there was an interesting comment that Earl made relative to the Cowboys. So he did his bow after that second interception, and he did it towards the Dallas sideline. He implied, I can't remember exactly the post-game comment, but or maybe it was something I heard, basically implying part of his comment about the disrespect has been noted, or whatever the statement wasn't just about the Seahawks. I mean, I think he was commenting about the Cowboys did not offer enough. They weren't offering enough for him. And so I think he's got a little frustration with more than just the Seahawks about the situation he's in. But look, as long as he's going to be wearing a Seahawks jersey, I'm going to be cheering for him and not going to be feeling bad about that at all. As long as, I can quibble with what the Seahawks strategy is here and their decision. I don't feel quite as upset at that. I'm really not that upset at the team either. I know a lot of people are. I'm just not. And look, we were just talking last week. Logic does not seem to be the thing driving a lot of decision making around this franchise, from at least in recent history. And Pete certainly does the same, type of thing where he's giving the impression that he would like to keep Earl around and just be patient. Is it totally out of the realm of possibility that at the end of this year they re-sign him? I don't think it is. I would give it like a 5%, 10% chance that could happen. That would be really weird. Like, it'd be a weird way to get to an extension. But it's possible.
So question, and maybe this is too simplified of a question. So top of the free safety market, I believe, is like 14 or 15 million right now with Eric Berry. So say Earl Thomas, wants to reset the market at, like, let's go conservative, like 15 million a year, wants to be the highest paid safety. And let's say the Seahawks have budgeted, what, $11, $12 million for him. Could this be as simple as like a $4 million salary difference in terms of what they think he's worth? Or do you think there's like something deeper going on here?
I am not the cap guy at all, but it seems to me that if I was Seattle, the thing I would be concerned about wouldn't be about like the average per year or anything like that, but the guarantee structures. That would be like, if you're talking about a guy on a third year, I mean, I don't slowing down, but he has had some injuries, and he's going to be 30, and so there's some uncertainty there. To me, I would be most concerned about when can I get out of this contract, or how much is it going to hurt me to get out of this contract in 3 years or whatever.
That's interesting.
I think that's fair. Like, the impression I get is that Earl wants to set the market at safety, and I do think there's reason to be a little bit concerned about a third contract player setting the market at any position other than maybe quarterback. So anyway, I can kind of understand that part of it. I lost my thought on this other piece, but what I wonder about is this going to escalate any further with Earl? We got to the third week of the season. He stopped practicing on Friday. Is there other things he's going to start doing that is going to force the Seahawks' hand?
Was there a conspiracy? Was there any conspiracy talk that the reason why that Zeke touchdown that got called back? Because Earl blew that play, right? He was supposed to stay over the top on that, right?
Yes.
we start a conspiracy theory that he did it on purpose? Trying to stick it to the team.
Yeah, I don't know. We can try to proliferate that.
I mean, he seems like I don't. There may be escalations and stuff, but like it seems pretty clear he's not gonna miss a game, right? If he was gonna like screw around and miss games, he would have by now. He would have kept his holdout or like something, right? I mean, he's showing up on Sunday and playing his heart out. Like I don't.
I'm curious to see his response to the fine because it was confirmed that he was fined, right?
I don't think it was confirmed. I think Pete Carroll made it clear there were consequences, and everyone's assuming that that's a fine.
Okay. There may have been a report that like it was confirmed. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe per CBA rules, they can fine up to 1 week's worth of salary for the player, which in Earl Thomas's case is $500,000. So, you know, $500K fine if they leverage like the full fine might piss them off.
Yeah,
it pissed me off.
Yes. So we've talked about Earl for a while. Let's talk about the. I got to admit one other thing I was wrong about. So this is 3 things now, and then I want to get on to talking about Mr. Chris Carson and Rashad Penny.
Oh boy.
But Dak Prescott, he doesn't look very good. I was so impressed with him his rookie season, his decision making, his accuracy, his strength, poise, like a lot of stuff. He looks like he has regressed significantly from where he was, and I'm curious if you guys saw the same, and if you felt the same about him then, and about what you saw of him now.
You know what? I'm gonna lead this one off because I have a fiery opinion on this. Nathan, please explain to me why your analytics friend by the name of Guga31BB tried to tell me back in the day. He tried to convince me. He tried to convince his whole Twitter timeline, all his Twitter followers, that Dak Prescott was a top 5 quarterback. Please, for the love of God, explain to me that opinion.
I don't want Ben's quarterback opinions to be like representative of all analytics Twitter, because the guy out here also saying that Matt Ryan is better than Aaron Rodgers.
Thank you.
But in fairness to Ben, I saw somebody tweet out like through his first 15 games. I don't remember what all the stats were, but basically Dak played at a Hall of Fame level. Like this wasn't some like he was winning. Like it wasn't a Dilfer thing, right? Where he's winning games, was a good team, and Ezekiel, like he was putting up legit amazing numbers for 15 games. And then in the 15 games since or whatever, he's been like a below average quarterback. And it's just like, it's pretty stark that just kind of flipped the switch and turned into the Dak Prescott I think everyone kind of thought he was going to be as a draft prospect. So I don't know. It's bizarre. I didn't watch him a ton. Like I wasn't really focusing in on kind of what he should have been doing. And I haven't watched the full game yet either on replay. So I didn't see a lot that Dak should have been doing. I think that a new coaching staff could probably breathe a lot of life into that team. But it was a completely. I mean, we've seen a couple bad quarterback performances to this point. Like I thought Keenum looked pretty awful, even though they put up some points. Trubisky looked really terrible. And yeah, like really early in that game, it was pretty clear this Dallas offense doesn't have any bite to it.
Yeah, that offense is really bad. And I know we're only so many people want to talk about Dallas, but I just had to bring that up because it's not often, I don't think, that you see someone at the quarterback position come in and play at such a strong level as rookie year and then just continually kind of move backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of examples of that. I know it's happened, but it's interesting to see. And I don't think I actually mind watching it because I cannot stand the Cowboys or their fan base. So so let's talk a little bit about the running game. This is Nathan's favorite topic. He requires that we talk about it every week. And I have to start by saying, like, thank bleeping God that I just got to see Chris Carson get a chance. I'm not going to sit here and say Chris Carson was the best running back of all time. He fulfilled all my dreams of what any running back could ever be. But they gave him a chance. He's earned that chance. Like, he's earned it. And he's earned it like so much more than anybody else. And I think he was a big part of why the team won. I think that he made his contribution to that team. And it's crazy to me that he had what was really kind of a workmanlike performance. It was not, I don't think, a special performance, but it was pretty workmanlike. And he did something that hasn't been done for 18 games by scoring a red zone touchdown by a running back. He did something, I think it's been like, I don't know, 13 games or something since a running back scored a touchdown of any sort on the ground. First time since
100-yard game.
23 games since a player had a 100-yard rushing game. Like, what the hell has been happening in Seattle? Like, that's so crazy when you put all those things together to realize how far this team has been from what it used to be and the identity that they used to have. And I thought Chris Carson was the number one reason that the team resembled having an identity and looked back like Seahawks football. I loved seeing him hit a pile and push it forward time and time again. I don't want to see him carrying the ball 32 times a game. I don't think that's sustainable for him, but that was great to see. So as much as I've been incredibly critical of the coaching staff for not doing that up until now, I'm going to give them kudos for admitting they were wrong and freaking running the ball with Chris Carson. I got to give it up for that. That was nice to see. Evan, where are you at on this?
If you're going to run the ball with your best running back. There is no reason to give Rashad Penny a single carry. I have a Rashad Penny jersey in my closet. I'm a vocal supporter of Rashad Penny. I was about ready to walk down 85th naked with a burning Rashad Penny jersey if he outsnapped and outcarried Chris Carson in this game. I am completely perplexed that he outsnapped and outcarried Chris Carson the first two games. My only frustration is, why didn't this happen earlier? Like, I don't buy the gassed excuse. I just, why did this not happen in week one? So, I mean, it's great to see. I love it.
And Nathan, did you hear that Pete Carroll said that he thought Carson was gassed again in the first quarter and then just decided to not interfere? Did you hear that?
I did not hear that.
That is absolutely true. I'm not making it up. Yeah.
That is so weird. We're talking about the running do your thing on this, but Harold Dewey, like, what the hell? Isn't you guys are run believers, so correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't a big thing about running the ball that it tires out the defense, and that there's some reason why running backs and the offensive line don't get tired at the same rate as the defense does? And Pete, like the Mr. Running's important, like, keeps looking at his running back and just thinks he's too tired. Like, what is that?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. And I think Pete implied that maybe Carson was trying to get off of punt coverage duties or something like that. And my thought was, first, like, okay, that's weird. And second, like, why the hell do you have him on punt coverage duties? Like, if you're going to have him carry the ball 32 times in a game, like, put somebody else on that. Like, come on. Like, can you imagine if Marshawn Lynch was on punt coverage duty? Like, what the hell?
So, because in the preseason, there was a big fantasy football war around Rashad Penny and Chris Carson. And it was mostly national guys saying, look, first-round running backs just get carries. And Seahawks fans saying, no, you don't understand. Chris Carson is good, and Pete loves this guy. And I think the national guys were kind of right, because despite, like, all evidence that Penny should not be getting carries, he was getting carries. I also think that it's starting to feel like maybe Chris Carson isn't Pete's guy like we kind of thought he was. Like, if he thinks that he's pretending to be tired to get out of punt return duties, like maybe that's just a thing that players do, but like that is a weird dynamic. I don't know. Pete is completely like baffling right now. I don't understand him at all.
Yeah, it is definitely there's some oddities going on there. So Nathan, knowing that you're not a fan of running and that running backs don't matter to you as well, I'm curious though, like what was your assessment of what you saw of Chris Carson, the player? He did catch a couple passes as well. What'd you see there?
I'm not team running backs don't matter.
For real?
I have a slightly different take that's maybe the same take. I think Chris Carson, if you roll Chris Carson, if you simulate 1,000 plays with Chris Carson and you simulate 1,000 plays with Rashard Penny in the exact same situation, I think Chris Carson is going to get you more yards than Penny, because I think Chris Carson's a better back than Penny. And like last year when we saw Chris Carson in a game compared to Eddie Lacy and Thomas Rawls in a game, like Chris Carson, there are bad running backs, but I think that largely across the league, there are way more good running backs than there are bad running backs, and to the point where maybe running backs effectively kind of don't matter. So whatever. That may be nitpicky, but that's kind of what I think.
I think you basically said running backs matter. I mean, by saying we don't have every running back in the league on the Seahawks. We've got Rashad Penny and we've got Chris Carson. And I think you just said if you play one, you're going to get better results than the other.
Absolutely. I don't think anyone who watched last year's team and saw Eddie Lacy and Thomas Rawls, like now neither of those guys are in the league. No, Rawls is, right? Where did he end up? The Browns? Or
he got cut by the Jets. I don't know if he's on any roster right now.
Cut by somebody. I want to say the Browns or.
You know who else just got cut? Christine Michael.
Christine Michael.
Yeah. Bring him back. Cut Procise and bring back C-Mike.
No.
No, I mean, so I don't know. It's probably kind of 6 to 1 half another, but like, yeah, you can have really bad running backs and then running backs matter. But I think for the most part, running backs are all pretty good, and so there's not a big difference. Like Ben's been harping on this with Le'Veon Bell, right? Everyone kind of thinks Le'Veon Bell is like a top 5 back at least, right? And the Steelers have never missed a beat when he hasn't been there. So yeah, I forgot the original question. I've been rambling about.
What do you think of Chris Carson as a player?
What?
What do you think of Chris Carson as a player?
I think he's good. I mean, he runs hard. He's fun to watch. You know, he moves laterally well. I thought he set up some nice runs. I think, you know, to the point that running backs don't matter, I thought he looked really good, and he averaged 3.2 yards per carry. Like, the run blocking wasn't great. So,
yeah, there were not a lot of spaces for him. And I will differ from you a little bit. Like, as someone who's been really banging the table for Chris Carson and really setting high expectations, I thought there were some yards he left out there in terms of when lateral agility is necessary to get to a space. I don't think that's a big strength. I mean, that showed up in his like 3-cone drill and some of the other combine stuff. I think he's more of a straight line guy. I think he's a push the pile guy. There was a couple plays where I think sorry, someone's making a Michael Dixon comment on the chat that distracted me. But I like that he was getting the yards, most of the yards that were there. You know, and I think that he looks like he continues to be a capable pass catcher. So I don't know. I was happy to see it. I'd be happy to see him do 20, 25 touches again this week. And if they were able to keep doing that. And then for me, honestly, I don't know what we're doing. I guess CJ Procise, John Schneider said maybe he had like a hamstring or quad or something, but that could have been covering as well. Like, I think CJ Procise offers more than either Penny or Mike Davis. So I'd rather see him get some carries and see what he can do as the third down guy and as the 2-minute guy. And if they can do that, I think that they'd have a pretty interesting combination. So,
I actually thought Penny showed signs of life in this game. I thought he looked a little bit more like what you'd want him to look like. Again, like the run blocking wasn't great, and he got some limited carries, and then he fumbled a handoff, and so like far from a good game from him, but just moving a little bit better. Like his runs aren't disastrous. Like I think he's maybe
he's a little more shifty and like and burst. He has a little bit more of a burst, and I wonder if it's related to his weight drop. To be honest,
yeah, I mean it seems likely, but I'm not willing to like buy a Rashard Penny jersey or anything anytime soon. But he does look like he's looking more and more like maybe a capable backup.
Nathan Ernst, Rashad Penny, Hall of Fame running back. You heard it here first on the Hawk Blogger podcast. Everybody loves it. Seriously.
All of capable running backs.
All right, so we've talked about a lot here, but we have not talked about Russell Wilson. And I thought this is his type of game. I mean, this is a game for me where you've got a lot of handoffs, and the running backs pushing some yards, and you're putting Russell in manageable third down situations that he did really well at in this game. I mean, there's this weird thing that I found in my research that seems, I think Nathan tweeted about someone or mentioned another person that found something similar. Russell's got some kind of odd, he's not a particularly good third down quarterback. There's not a lot of evidence that he's at his best on third down. He's about league average, maybe a little bit below in some cases. But 3rd and 5 to 9 yards, he is better. He's like 4th in the NFL since 2012 in converting first downs, and that includes some of using his legs as well. Every other, 1 to 4 yards, 10 plus yards, he is not good. But for some reason, 5 to 9, he is. And that played out in this game. He had some of his best plays on, even like a 3rd and 9, I think, is where the touchdown to Tyler Lockett came, if I'm remembering right. So, and that was a gorgeous pass. I mean, I had the perfect angle on that, and he could not have put it in a better spot. So I loved his whole game. I thought he played really well, and if Brandon Marshall wouldn't drop the ball, I thought he would have had an even better game.
Yeah, 2 thoughts. Number one, I haven't gone back and watched Russell specifically, but it felt like he got the ball out quicker. That's something at least I just felt like after watching the game. Number 2, I cannot get over that throw to Brandon Marshall. Or wait, did you mention, were you talking about the Tyler Lockett throw, or were you talking about the Brandon Marshall throw?
I was talking about the Tyler Lockett touchdown.
Okay, yeah. Do you remember the 3rd down conversion to Brandon Marshall on the right seam, I think it was? Yep. That was a dime. That in my opinion was the best throw of the game. That was incredible. So I'd love to see him to continue to get the ball out quicker, especially with a couple of the opponents we have coming up in the Rams and actually the Raiders don't have Khalil Mack anymore. So, but yeah, love to continue to see that.
Nathan, you're going to tell us that you didn't like Russell's game today or this week?
Yeah, I mean, no, I haven't watched the whole game. So, but in a quarter and a half, I felt like I was finding more stuff to be critical of than I had been against the Bears. I don't think I'm not going to say he didn't play as well against Dallas as he did against the Bears because he had the pick 6 and he had the fumble, and those were backbreakers. But I mean, true to myself, like I don't like. This is kind of still what I mean. We swing every week and we swing based on performance and stuff like this or production. I don't think he performed that differently this week than last week. I think he's the same guy. There was just more open. Yeah.
Interesting, because I mean, look, I know your take has consistently been, show me the plays that he should have made. And I would say that when you look at the tape of some of the plays he is making, you wouldn't say, like the touchdown to Tyler Lockett against the Bears. If you'd watched that on tape and he hadn't thrown it, I wouldn't say you'd say, oh, there was a throw he should have made. That was an easy touchdown and he missed it. The throw he made to Lockett up the sideline for the touchdown here, you could have said maybe, depending on how things played out, but the safety was coming over. I mean, that was a 18 inches, 24 inches, you know, like from that being either picked off or knocked down, to throw to Brandon Marshall. I don't think he was particularly open. I don't think Brandon Marshall's ever particularly open. So I think there's a lot of these plays where if you're just looking at it and saying, yeah, there's a wide open guy and he's not throwing it, I'd agree with you. There's going to be fewer of those instances. But I just don't think that's quarterbacking in the NFL. I think that especially at an elite quarterback level, you find people or I think Jeff said the statement that you pass, you throw them open. That kind of implies that by throwing it, you get them separation. Mm-hmm. I don't think that is definitely a skill, and that's not the one that I'm necessarily asking for from Russell, but there is a matter of risk that you have to be willing to take and an accuracy you have to have in ball placement to be able to get a ball into a tight window and make completions. And I just thought his risk reward was better, and I thought he made some just game-changing plays in this game, and so I give him credit. I thought,
but he did make
those plays a lot more decisive than he was the week prior.
See, and that's what's weird to me. The decisive thing, like, I think a lot of what you just said is fair, but how can we judge his decisiveness? What you're basically saying is then it's unknowable, right? If you're saying like I think you're right. If we watch that play, the Tyler Lockett touchdown against the Bears, and he doesn't throw that pass, I don't think anyone's going to be killing him for that, right? I don't think that's going to be caught. So then basically what we're saying is unknowable. So then I don't understand how we can turn around and like criticize him for not being decisive enough.
Because we're fans and we get to say whatever the hell we want. Sure. I mean, let's be honest, right? Like, that's somewhat facetious, but one, I think admitting something's unknowable is the starting point. I will admit that. Like, we are not in the huddle. There are things about the play calls, about where people are supposed to be. There's times that receivers are actually running the wrong route. They are not making the right adjustment. I mean, how many people in the world believe that Matt Hasselbeck was made a fool by the interception he threw in the playoffs against the Packers? Because he said, we're going to get the ball and we're going to score, and he threw a pick six at the end of the game. That was on Alex Bannister. Matt Hasselbeck made the absolute right read on a blitz, and Alex Bannister didn't cut his route off where it was supposed to be cut off. Most fans would never know that, and would always just assume that Hasselbeck was the one that made the mistake. So I think that's one that I happen to know to be true. There are probably 5 of those, 10 of those every game. And I think we just have to acknowledge that we don't know. So that's where you start. But then we've all watched a lot of football. Like, you watch the games how many times in a row, Nathan? You watched the extra film. I used to watch every game 3 times. I don't have time to do that anymore. But I've watched a shit ton, thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of football in my life. And not just Seahawks football, but I have a feeling, I have a sense for when a player is getting rid of the ball on time. When they get to the top of their drop, is the ball coming out? I know with Russell Wilson, my son and I both notice when he gets to the top of his drop and the ball's coming out right away, it's going to be a big play. Like when you just know it because he's very decisive. In the Bears game, what I saw was a guy that looked very indecisive is too simple, but he didn't look confident, and he was holding onto the ball, and he looked timid. He just didn't look like a confident player. And I saw moments where he could be getting rid of the ball, and instead he was swallowing it. So
I think you can't put those on Russ, though. Like, maybe
I can.
You can do it. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But like, let's also be honest about what he's got around him. He's thrown to 80-year-old Brandon Marshall. He's got Shoddy trying to scheme these guys open. Like, yeah, maybe he is timid, and maybe he doesn't have a lot of trust, and maybe he's hitting the top of the drop and he's not finding anywhere to go because there isn't anywhere to go.
Like, let's talk about that. So I don't disagree with a lot of what you just said. Like, anyone that says the offensive line's been good and he should feel really confident hasn't been watching Seahawks football. Like, that's clearly not the case. Anyone that would say that the receivers are constantly open and he's just missing them, I don't think that makes a lot of sense. But let's talk about those situations where if he's getting to the back of his drop, and what did we just say? We all know, like, all of us know that the offensive line there's a time limit there. Like, there's an amount of time realistically that you're going to have back there. He's got to know that. He's got to know if players are open or not. And look, Russ, one of the things that makes Russ great is that he does not want to give up on a play. He will scramble to create more time. He will, eschew the short pass, looking for the long play. Like he looks for those things, and that's part of what makes him great. Taken to an extreme, or done too often, it becomes a weakness. And I think that he refuses to see, okay, I'm at the top of my drop. There is no one open. There is pass pressure. I'm going to throw this ball out of bounds. And I'm going to throw it over one of my receivers' heads, and we're going to have 2nd and 10 instead of 2nd and 17. Those are, I feel like, very legitimate areas of growth for him. And I just don't see that often enough from him.
Yeah, I don't know. I think if Russ is dropping back and hitting the top of his, drop back and just sailing balls out of bounds, I don't think we're going to be coming back here on Monday or Tuesday or whenever we do a pod and say, boy, wasn't it great that he just threw all those passes out of bounds? Like, we're going to have the same discussion about, like, quarterbacks need to throw guys open and anticipate and, like, and they do. And, I like I said, I thought there was more to criticize about Russ's performance in this Dallas game. Not to say he played poorly, but I was finding more stuff where I was like, I don't really get why he's not getting the ball out here. And some of that is unfortunate too. And the Brandon Marshall drops maybe make that game, if they're catches, they hit him in the hand. If he brings those in, maybe the game feels a little different.
Yeah.
But
did you see the Raiders play against the Rams earlier this year by any chance? Watch Derek Carr in that game. Have you watched much Derek Carr?
He's been awful.
Well, so, I mean, he is the opposite. So he's the guy that, again, to an extreme, he gets to the top of his drop and he throws the ball. Like, he throws it in under 2 seconds, like, all the time. Like, the guy
any hint of pressure, it's gone.
Right. He just throws it right away. And most of the time, he's throwing it way, like, a lot of times it's inaccurate.
It's horrible.
Over people's heads. And so I don't think that's any better. Like, I'm not saying that he should become that guy either. But I think we get to these extremes where it's like, he's all right or he's all wrong. And I just think, like, he needs to do more. He needs to throw the ball away more often. And yes, I would compliment him for doing that.
Yeah, Derek Carr sees a defender 25 yards out and he throws the ball away. Like, it's yeah, that's the other extreme for sure.
Yeah. So I know that Evan, we probably got to wrap up here in a few minutes, but we're looking ahead to Arizona. Let's talk about that for a second, and then we'll wrap for the night. So, Cardinals look like a pretty bad team. They have Chandler Jones, who's a great pass rusher. They have Josh Rosen, a rookie quarterback. They have Patrick Peterson. They have a few other things going for them. Evan, what are you kind of anticipating this week? What do you need to see from the Seahawks?
I expected a very dominant defensive performance. People are not talking about maybe they are talking about it to an extent, and I know Cardinals fans are talking about it, but their offensive line is complete and utter trash. It is very, very bad. I saw a stat the other day that they were giving up, like, they've given up more pressures in 3 games than, like, only a couple other teams in history. Like, it's crazy what they're doing. So they're really throwing Josh Rosen to the wolves. It should be a game for Frank Clark. I'd love to see Frank Clark have a couple of sacks. I think he's had 1 sack in each game so far, or 0.5 maybe on Sunday. So it'll be interesting to see our defensive line match up against their offensive line. Their offense has been so putrid. Sam Bradford was averaging like 3 yards per pass attempt. So you got to think, like, Josh Rosen has got to be better. At least he'll probably be more aggressive. So, they might take more shots and stuff like that. But you got to watch out for David Johnson. David Johnson is still a stud. They have a new head coach and everything since Bruce Arians left. So we don't really know a whole ton about this Cardinals team. We don't have a ton of film on them. So our offense should really kick some butt. They should put up, 24 plus points this game. So, but I think the real matchup I'm looking for is their offensive line versus our defensive line. We better dominate. That's to be expected. And it could end up being, the nail in the coffin for the Cardinals this game.
Yeah, we definitely saw more pass pressure from the Seahawks this time in the Dallas game. Nathan, what do you want to see in Arizona?
More passing, less running. We didn't get into it a whole lot, but 3.2 yards per carry is not good. And I don't know that was super helpful. But yeah, I don't know. I want to. It would be great to just have another game like the Dallas game. Like, I don't need them to look completely dominant. I don't need them to have 5 turnovers or anything crazy. But another one of these games where they just look like the better team from start to finish, and we don't do the thing we always do with Seahawks games where they're incredibly stressful and like all that stuff. It was that Dallas game was a nice kind of breath of fresh air, and if we get just one more of those, even if they only end up winning by like 10 points or 7 points or whatever in the end, like just kind of have that kind of, this team is better, this other team isn't gonna, do anything crazy here. We got this, and then just have a nice Sunday at Ocean 5. That'd be great.
Yes, we'll talk about that. We'll cap on that. But look, Evan, last time Seahawks played in Glendale, you and I were there, and Richard Sherman and Cam Chancellor played their last games as Seahawks.
Yeah, in a really weird, depressing sort of tribute to them. I, laminated those tickets and framed them because to me, that was really the nail in the coffin for the Legion of Boom. So that was a really sad game. It was a really sad experience. And I hate playing in Arizona because bad things just happen in that stadium. So
there have been some amazing things that happen in that stadium, though, too.
Oh, really? Like the pass on the 1 yard line?
Okay, that wasn't great. I'm just saying, there was a period of time where we owned them in that.
We win there. That's not a period of time. That's right now. I think we last like 3 or 4 there or something like that.
Yeah, like I remember a couple years ago where it was a Thursday night game and they had it looked like it was a home Seattle game, especially after the game. Like the area behind where they do the interviews and everything was just packed with Seahawks fans, and I think that they had some games where they beat them like 40-3 and stuff like that, right? So it doesn't have to be a house of horrors.
Yeah, I'll never forget that Russell Wilson juke on a scramble.
Yeah.
This was years ago. I don't know if you guys remember that.
And the Marshawn Lynch run.
Yeah, Beast Mode 2.0.
Yeah, there's been a lot of good stuff down there. It's actually if everyone hasn't been there, I think it's a great place to go and watch a game. I like the pregame scene there a lot.
I was okay. You know what? I might get absolutely crucified for this take, but I was mostly impressed with Cardinals fans. Actually, they seem to be fairly level. I don't know if level-headed is the right word. Fairly gracious in their welcoming.
Because they've sucked. They're like one of the worst franchises in the history of the NFL. So they don't. There's not a lot of pride.
Yeah, and Arizona's not really like a NFL state.
The funny thing is, they are one of the loudest stadiums I've ever been to. I think they're louder than CenturyLink Field. I will say.
Oh, currently, day to day.
Yes.
That's not even a debate. I think my hot take is that the Clink is super quiet. But
my hot take is that the Seahawks are actually better with Bradley McDougald at strong safety than if Cam Chancellor was still healthy.
Ooh.
I don't know that's wrong. I don't know that's a hot take. They're not better than if they had 2013.
Yes, that's different.
But 2018 healthy Cam?
Yeah.
I don't know, that's crazy.
Do you want to know something really sad and depressing? Well, maybe it's not sad and depressing for Cam Chancellor, but the total money we're paying to Bradley McDougald over 3 years is about 75% of the dead money we'll pay to Cam Chancellor in the next year and a half. Not a fun stat to end your night on.
No. All right. Well, hey, I'm definitely interested in seeing the game. We'll be doing a pregame pod Sunday, so people should tune in, even if you can't come down to Ocean 5. Tune in. We'll do it on YouTube here. It'll be over video. And Evan, run down again where people can find out more information about the event and some of the benefits of coming down.
Yeah, so just to recap real quick, Ocean 5 in Gig Harbor, they are going to be playing Red Zone before the game. A lot of people were asking about that, so they'll have Red Zone on all the screens. You can drink beer, listen to the podcast with us, talk with us, chat it up. It'll be super fun. We have more info on the Hawkblogger site. So if you go to the hawkblogger.com, the front post is elaborating on further details. So like I said, the promotion for Hawkblogger fans is you get unlimited access to the arcade all game. But just like we said, all kids and family members are welcome. It's going to be a super fun time. Food is discounted. I was looking at a lot of their beers. It's like $5. So it's gonna be really fun. The venue is stunning. I don't know if you guys have seen pictures of it. It's recently built in the past few years. It is really a premium facility. So I think it's gonna be a super fun time.
What was that beer selection like?
What was that?
What was that beer selection like?
Oh God, it was a lot of local stuff, which is good. I made it sound bad, but yeah, they got a lot of local craft stuff. And
But do they have Coors Light?
I actually didn't see that. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing,
dude.
Yeah.
I'll be happy with the Mannies. So, all right. Hope to see folks there. It should be fun. And with that, go Hawks. And thanks for tuning in, folks.